Hey, what's up garden friends? Hope you're doing great. In today's video, we're talking all about how we build soil health in our garden using earthworm castings. So as a lot of you may know, if you're green thumbs already, the secret to good healthy plants is amazingly healthy soil. And one of the best ways to get to a healthy soil in your garden is to build it up with earthworm castings. Now, you can purchase that in the store or you can make it yourself. The choice is yours. In today's video, I'm going to show you how we make our own here from our garden waste and our kitchen scraps, and really how we actually collect those castings so that way we can actually use them. So let's take a look. Let's go take a quick look at our worm bins really quick, and I'll show you what we do out here. It's pretty cool. So old garden beds made into worm bins. And so the first thing that we do, you can see we've been feeding them a lot. We got some old recycled paper in there, some cardboard, and then below that we've got some material. But I'll show you the one we've been working in recently. So what I've done here's you can see we've already been harvesting a bit this last day or two. And what we've done is we've actually made some worm traps where we got a container. Look at all the worms there. So we packed it full. I drilled some extra holes in it as well, the bottom of this container. And we started putting all of our scraps in here as opposed to spreading it out like you saw in this other garden. So right here, you can see they're kind of spread out. It's kind of everywhere. We also have some traps in there. But here we've kind of concentrated it recently, knowing we're gonna harvest. So we've been trying to add our scraps to this, and it's just, if I dig in here, you'll see it's just packed full of worms. So what's nice for us is the first step to harvesting it is to try to separate the worms from the castings. And one of the best ways to do that ahead of time is to let the worms do that on their own. So we've created this trap. You can see all of them in the pile are kind of heading either into the trap or around it. You can see here's another one that we had, and it's packed full too. But that allowed us to get down into this matter down here, and you can see it's really thick. This has been building up for several years. But what we need to do is bring it inside because it's starting to rain. So we need to remove anything that's inorganic. So I'm gonna pull up some scoops. I'll bring it inside and we can take a closer look. Now it's time to separate. So here's the material we brought in from from our system outside. And what's nice about having those traps that I showed you is it just lures in most of the worms away from the material. So a lot of this material's already their waste. They're done, although you'll see bits and pieces in there. And it'll give us a good indication of what we can do in the future to improve the whole system. So first, I like to go through here and pull out, and I have one tray here filled. I have one empty tray, so you can kind of use this to kind of sift through it as needed. I'll have a tool if you need this, a little, for digging through it. Sometimes people like that. I just use my hands. Some gloves are always nice. I'll carry a little container for all the inorganic materials. So any pieces of plastic or bits and pieces that we don't want in there, rocks and debris, anything that isn't finished earthworm castings that we can get out, we'll get out, basically all the inorganics. So for instance, you saw in there that we use like some newspaper, and we use different types of paper products like cardboard, and sometimes we'll get it in there and we soak it, but it has the old tape that held those boxes together. Get all that plastic tape out of there. Sometimes you'll actually even just see glue from the cardboard, little strips of glue in there. That all comes out, and you can see there's actually quite a bit of this. And so for me, if you want to speed this process up, just don't put stuff like this in there to begin with. So cardboard is nice as a bedding, but the effort that you put in up front to rip off all the plastic, that's kind of something that we do more often now, is we'll soak it and we'll make sure that we strip off all the plastic, all the tape, and that really helps out. And I think a lot of this material now, this has been there for several years. So we had to learn as we go. But if you can keep that material from being in there in the first place, that's also really good. So that'll all go in here. I'll have an empty container that we'll utilize, and any worms that are still in here, we can just go in here, and then we can put them either into our fish tanks here as food, or put it right back into the worm systems, right back in that vermicomposter. But that's basically it. We'll come through here, and you can see you can kind of crumble it apart, and then that's finished. You can see some of the eggshells are still in there. That's not a problem, but also a good indicator of something that we could do in the future to improve that. So oftentimes we'll have scraps from our culinary students bringing it in from the kitchen, and those eggs will go in there. They'll get kind of lightly pounded. But what would be really nice is if we ground it up as much as possible. And so you can see it is broken up into small pieces, but if it was ground up even finer, we'd probably have an even better finished product. So that's just something to think about too. So if you are adding the eggshells, try to grind them up, smash them up really, really good. The more effort you put in, the faster they can get broken down. and will get incorporated. But that's something you're probably seeing in there too. And then we'll see some organic material that hasn't quite broken down, like seed coats and things like that. Not a problem. You don't necessarily need to sift those away or separate them. They'll just break down. And then what we're doing is we're actually going to have this dry out. So let me show you some of we've been doing this all since yesterday, and like I said, you can see here's a good fat, nice. This is the worms that are the whole thing that is driving this system, are these little red wiggler worms. Like I said, they'll get separated. Spend a little moment in there, but when we're done, what we're after is having nothing, just all wonderful broken down earthworm castings, hopefully no plastic in there, because we don't want to add that into our garden. And so if you can keep that out from going in the first place, it'd be even less effort in this step right here. It's really simple to separate them. Oftentimes too, the light is a great way to scare the worms downwards. So in here in the room, we got nice bright light. You can do it outside. But what's nice is as you kind of tease through the soil, all the worms, they react to the light and they will just dive down. And so you can kind of get at the material that way as well, by just by their sheer behavior to light, is they always want to dive down. So as I go through this side, you'll notice that a lot of the worms that actually are in there, here's a little pebble, don't want any rocks in there. But any worms that we do have oftentimes are at the bottom. So here I scraped to the bottom, found a bunch of worms, and those can get separated and put back in to live another day. But that's just something to consider too. So the light is really helpful as you can tease through this. They'll dive down, and then before too long, it doesn't really take too much effort. Actually, we did some yesterday, and I want to show you, although my hands are all dirty. So let me just kind of slowly show you here. This is how much we did with a little bit of effort yesterday. And so look how much this is. It's pretty incredible. This is probably, this is huge. I mean, it's probably 80 to 100 pounds right now, but there's a lot of moisture in it. So we've got it pretty well sifted. You can see some eggshell still in there, but that's not a problem. We've pulled out most of the material that doesn't belong, and that's gonna be done. And we can actually bag this up. We can store it for a little while, but we'll probably use it really, as soon as possible. We'll get it distributed out in the garden. We will blend it up with some water, and that is finished vermicompost. And look how much that is. I mean, just pounds and pounds and pounds of it. And it feels great. Like I said, if we let it dry out a little bit, we could probably sift it some more, like we do with our actual compost outside, but I don't even think it's even that necessary at this point, because we just don't want one little piece of plastic made it through, right? So that's why it's good to kind of keep an eye on it and get it all cleaned up. But it's really easy to do. It makes your plants grow like wild. They just love the nutrition. So it's a fertilizer, and it's a soil amendment. It does both those things. It's it's full of organic matter, full of microbes, and it's just wonderful organisms that are going to really benefit the health of your plants. So I highly recommend getting out there. If you have a worm bin, get it going, feed it up. If you've had issues in the past, just learn from those and just keep moving forward. But for us, it's been absolutely worth the effort. You can see right here, look how big that is. I mean, just huge. The thing is packed full. So get out there today, get your hands on some earthworm castings. Buy them if you have to, but make them if you can. Until next time, garden friends, happy gardening to you all. Never stop growing.